Yes. Yet another drama in the pits. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Mark, but car 15, the Thomas Mazera Brad Jones car, has a blown fuse, and it's the wiper fuse.
Oh, thanks, Dougie.
Amazing.
I could have used the line, it never rains but it pours, but it didn't seem appropriate, did it?
Car 25 still hanging on to 4th position outright.
They were drying the electrics in the Moffat car, hopefully trying to cure a mess that they thought it was that simple. Meantime, Johnny Chicotto of Venezuela. Gee, he's broken that loose. Listen to that rev as it heads up the hill. Tony Longhurst is yet to actually put his backside in the B&H car today.
And look at that.
Now that will give you some idea of the fog on top of Mount Panorama.
As you said earlier, Wilco, a cloud has descended on top of it.
Sure has.
Vision down. Minimal levels.
Now, these are appalling conditions to be behind the wheel under any circumstances, let alone in a motor race like this.
Just look at the way Klaus Needsvitz is fighting this Sierra. Every time he gets on the power, the back wants to break away. You can see the difficulty for these guys seeing out the back of their car and the front of the car. Look at the damage there on the GIO, quite a severe hit in the door. And if it's difficult to look at it on television, you can imagine it's doubly difficult inside the cockpit of a touring car.
Peter Brock wasn't planning on a pit stop. In the next lap or so, he might have to come in for one in the mobile Commodore, car number 05. We'll show you an incident that happened at Mazda Forest Elbow. Car 18 as well having a problem. That's the Greek Crick, Terry Shield. And they were able to be missed by the second of the mobile Commodores. We'll show you that as soon as we have the incident. But here's what happened. There's Brocky coming up, and the second Win Percy Alan Grice car, number 16, stopped to avoid contact. How close was that?
I think that Alan Grice should have a word with him. He might be elected to Parliament, but he's not elected the most popular driver on the racing track, I can tell you. There's a train of cars with I think Brad Jones in front, Larry Perkins and myself all trying to get past Brad Jones. Grice come along and tapped me coming into the corner, spun me around. And then to make matters worse, to add insult to injury, he put it in first gear ground with spoiler off.
It's been a pretty awful weekend for you so far, and the conditions aren't helping either.
No, but I mean, in those situations, you drive with some grey matter.
Oh, that's the...
We've had a big accident, the Marathon Foods Commodore.
And the other, it's the second Caltex car.
Yeah, Caltex car 7. The pace car is onto the circuit. And that's been quite a high-speed shunt between these two cars. Caltex 7 driven by Peter Hopwood and Terry Bosenjack.
Not much of the boot left there. I hope he didn't have his golf clubs in.
Fire marshals dousing the fuel cell at the rear of the car.
Car 7's the car that Colin Bond campaigned this year in the touring car title. Look at the extent of the damage.
Every corner of the car has been banged up.
That's been a monster shunt.
The Nissan GTR pace car's out there. It should be leading the field, and behind it, it should have the GTR that's leading the race. There's a bit of a problem down here, though, a few worried faces, because he's due for a pit stop any minute, and if they can't do the pit stop quickly enough, he might end up getting held in the pits and lose a lap. So Mark Skaife looking a bit worried, so is Freddie Gibson and the rest of the crew.
Thank you, Richard. The pace car still out on the circuit at the moment. The two vehicles involved in this incident on the approach to Caltex Chase, John English and Ed Lamont. Let's have a look what happens. Here is the Hopwood car coming up. It's going to pull out and has drilled the Commodore right in the rear, and you can see what has happened. He's put himself around, and there goes the Commodore. He's trying to bring it back under control. He'll hit the wall on the right. Oh! And then straight across to the left, and how on earth he has just missed being hit again. That was a very, very spectacular incident.
Number 2, Winfield Nissan comes in. Crompton, Neil Crompton exits the car. Anders Olofsson is going to take over the wheel again.
See, Jimmy Richards came in just a few seconds ago. That moved the number 2 car up to the lead.
And Johnny Chicotto's in as well. Tony Longhurst getting into the car.
So they'll do their full fuel stop, change of driver, the BMW team. And Neil Crompton. Good on Cromley. You can actually tell everyone now he led the great race.
Sure did.
Don't think he won't.
Paul Morris there helping Tony Longhurst gets strapped in. What a disappointing day for him, not getting a stint behind the wheel with that unfortunate incident involving Denny Hulme.
Sorry, Gary, car 25 was in position 3. This pit stop will drop them back, and Tony's yelling at the crew. He's having these major demisting problems on the front window as well. This is quite a long stop for the B&H crew, and the main problem seems to be this fogging up. And really need everything going for you in these thick, foggy conditions. There's the 18 car. And the problem here is that car 17 is in before them. There's
now Longhurst can't get out. He's being held up by the 18 car.
Oh, desperate stuff.
Tony be furious about this.
Well, he's got a lot of time to catch up. Pace car on the way.
He's trying to push it out with his fist. That's how frustrated he is.
Common problem here is keeping the windscreens clean and under-misted. There's been some amazing tricks tried. The Glenn Seatonford's been using Coca-Cola on the premise that the water might at least stick to the sticky surface and drip, whereas Brocky earlier was using half-cut apples on the inside in the hope he'd get it slippery and the fog wouldn't stick. At least in the shell pit, they've gone for somewhat more conventional means.
Martha Gardner could be giving tips here.
Mate, there are so many home handy tips around here today, it's amazing. If you can give me one to keep me dry, I'll be delighted.
Car 15 also in pit lane.
It's a hell of a way to make a living, isn't it, really? It's atrocious, honestly. In all my years of motor racing, it's the worst conditions I've ever seen.
Pace car goes through our shot there, pursued by car 72, I think it was.
These conditions are becoming absolutely appalling.
Look at that rain now. That's sheeting down. That's torrential rain.
It's a torrent. There's our track cam on the way out of
Look at that.
Repco corner, and that gives you some idea. You might as well stick a camera in the middle of a river. Look at the water there.
The view from up here in race control is it's a little drier, but I tell you, it must be pretty worrying out there, Tim.
Well, it is worrying, but we've just had a weather report from Orange where the weather is coming from. The advice is that this weather passed through half an hour ago and it is lifting. As you can see, actually, when you look out now, it's much lighter. We were going to keep the pace car out until the circuit's what we would call raceable. It'll still be very wet, but of course we've got a lot of streams running across the road, and once that is cleared up, we'll restart the race.
If nothing else, it makes for an interesting day's racing.
It makes for a long day's racing.
Cars under the pace car, we should get away to a start next time around.
Lights are off.
That's definite, yep.
When the lights come off on the pace car, that indicates there's one lap to go behind the pace car, and racing can resume when it pulls into the pit entry. So,
a number of incidents that we have covered here today, none more tragically than the accident involving Denny Hulme, 56 years of age, World Formula One champion in 1967, second at Le Mans, the 24-hour race of 66, US Can-Am sports car champion 68-70, first in the class here at Bathurst in 1990, and it was his 10th Bathurst start. And the sad news is that Denny Hulme has passed away in Bathurst Hospital following that incident earlier today down Pitt Straight, where he struck the wall and came off across the circuit into the other side of the wall. His friends and obviously his relatives have been informed. Most of them are here at the circuit. So to all those close friends, those hundreds of thousands of friends of Denny Hulme who watched him race in a marvellous career, we pass on our sincere condolences. And the order still, the number 1 car, Jimmy Richards, Mark Skaife, Mark in the car at the moment, leading the great race over Anders Olofsson in the second Winfield Nissan, and Tony Longhurst, the 25 Benson and Hedges car, running in 3rd spot. 4th is John Boundick Johnson in the 17 Shell Sierra, and the Mark Gibbs car still in there, hanging in there despite all the problems, and they're followed by car number 16, Alan Grice and Wyn Percy. So we go back to racing.
The battle-scarred Peter Jackson Sierra leads them across the line for the first time as the leaders begin to pick their way through the back markers. The Winfield Nissan's tucked in there. Oh,
that was a bit of late braking there, but it looked like it was perhaps Manuel Reuter.
Sure was. So, after dozens of laps behind the pace car, we're back to racing in the 2 1000. Let's hope the weather continues to lift. There we are. A bit of low-level cloud, but visibility improving all the time. Mark Skaife at the wheel of the Winfield Nissan GTR, the car that once again won the Australian Touring Car Championship, 2nd year in succession. Mark Skaife, boy, what a career he's having. 25 years of age, and he's won just about everything there is to win in Australian motorsport. Australian touring car champion, Bathurst winner, Australian Gold Star champion. Now he's won a category in off-road racing. He's also Australian 2-litre champion. He's got an enormous pedigree developed over a very short period of time. Mark Skaife, hard at work.
In Mazda Forest Elbow, car number 3, the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore, driven by Ashby and Reed.
Trevor Ashby was at the wheel.
And they were running 15th, but they've gone straight ahead and not taken the left-hand turn. They've got out into the grassy area there and banged into the tyre wall.
That's Trevor Ashby. You can see standing above the wall there, helmet in hand. Pace car is on the track as it had to be until they can clear this out of that corner. So this is the 4th time.
We might have a look at the replay now, Gary, and see exactly what happened. Oops, I know what's happening. Straight under the camera, and he's gone straight into the wall. Well, as soon as he got off the blacktop, and I think it locked up, there was nothing there. There he goes, straight into the tyre wall, just at Mazda Forest Elbow. The cars travelling close behind were able to get through, of course, because the car wasn't blocking the track, but it's not really something you want to leave in Mazda corner for the remainder of the race and have someone else run off and do exactly the same thing. The car's still coming down. It'll only be a lap or so under the pace car, I would think. Dickie Johnson. Gee, I tell you what, he is hanging on like you couldn't believe today. It's a day for the old pros, Dick.
You never know, Mike, do you?
Do you never know? Do you reckon you could, if you could do a pit stop for a bit of a 4-wheel drive adjustment, it would help?
Oh, mate, you wouldn't believe. Bowie, this is Bowie's car that he used all year.
Yeah.
And you know, he likes, you know, these little bits and pieces in the car. He's fairly fussy, you know. And he's got pipes coming. There's more donkey's things in here than I've ever seen in my whole life. They're here, they're here, they're here. And all they're doing is filling up with water and blowing water all over the inside of the windscreen. So I need a wiper on the inside as well as the outside.
So how's the car running?
It's fantastic. It really is fantastic. But as I said, what are we? Almost halfway, but gee, we've still got a long way to go.
Yes, there is a long way to go. If it goes full distance, I hope you got a good set of floodlights.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think I've got any floodlights. The lights are covered on the front, so I might have to get a couple of one of those ones with the stick-on doobies on the side here.
Dick, what's it feel like when you're running in these appalling conditions and the turbo cuts in? You must lose all traction at over 200 k's.
I can tell you, Doug, it's like chewing the leg on a chocolate frog. It's about that much fun.
It's not an experience I can relate to, but I'll take your word for it. Dick Johnson.
The great race will continue. We'll be back to green flag racing in just a moment, because the pace car has the light off and it is bringing the field down the straight as the number 10 Moffat car, the Synovus Vitamins entry, is back in the pits.
They were running in 9th position at the time they went to the pits, but they'll want to get a move on with racing about to resume.
You can see how that line's drying out, Gary. It's going to affect the tyre selections. I know that the Shell team are down there with a set of intermediates ready to go. We've had the opera glasses on those, and the boys are going to be working out now with this blue sky imminent whether they want to go and do intermediates and move to slicks, or whether they're going to stay out on these wets to the point where they can do the one tyre change before they run home.
Well, it's a critical decision too.
Certainly is. We've got the light out on the pace car. It as pulls off. It's car number 1, the leading Nissan, leads them up.
Sunshine for the first time today here at Panorama.
You won't believe the bad luck that's befallen Alan Moffat once again. A rear differential has failed, and Alan's been in here for 2 or 3 minutes already. Greg Hansford sitting disconsolately at the wheel. You can see the work going on under the car. These 9-inch differentials were developed in Australia because they were supposed to be bulletproof compared to the original diff setup that the Sierra had. They should be able to run thousands of kilometres without any trouble. But bad luck has befallen Alan Moffat once again. Differential failure on the car 10, and it was running in a very strong 8th position. Another piece of brilliant 7 technology there that we now kind of take for granted. We affectionately call it stick cam. And without getting in anybody's way, this tiny camera at the end of about an 8-10 foot rod, you can
to slip it under the car, catch all of the action without inconveniencing the pit crew in this critical work.
Interesting stuff now on top of the mountain. Dickie Johnson at the wheel of the 17 car, and car number 2. Anders Olofsson back in that car. Signalling to the drivers as they come through there on the way to Forest Elbow. Well, we have the traces of a dry line starting.
And traces of competition as a result. It's definitely going to make for more interesting viewing, I'm pleased to say.
It's the battle for second.
Another drama, Mike. Look, oil flags are out. We've got oil on the track somewhere.
We'll have to follow that. Now Johnson trying to stretch the Sierra. He's running second on the road at the moment behind Mark Skaife and Jimmy Richards, and the man sitting behind him is Anders Olofsson in the number 2 Winfield Nissan GTR. And the only man standing between them and a 1-2 for the afternoon is Dickie Johnson at the moment.
And they're gobbling him up there under brakes at the bottom of Conrod.
Well, they will in the wet. Now Olofsson coming straight down on the inside. This is how easy it is. He can run through there. There's not a dry line there. The car doesn't get sideways at all. Johnson closes it up. Now Johnson's getting egged into a bit of a race here, which he really doesn't need. A straight line, if they could find a bit of straight line here, it'd be interesting to see what Dick can do with the GTR, but it's like waltzing on ice at the top of the mountain because there's no dry line up there. And look at this, Dick. I don't know if he appreciated that.
Well, Dick would want to be in front going over the top of the mountain because that's where the Nissan has the biggest advantage with the four-wheel drive in these damp conditions.
My information was that they've already rolled the slick tyres out for the next pit stop for the 17 car.
It's a moment with one of the little cars.
We're now at the halfway distance as car 74 takes a little reverse there.
The GIO car was in 5th position, stopped on the side of the road. They've been able to fire it up and they're heading back to the pits.
Blowing a lot of smoke when it pulled up and not blowing any smoke now.
And some damage to the front right as well.
As they had it coming together with a Sierra.
Who was that he came together with? One of the Sierras.
Ken Matthews.
Ken Matthews.
Yeah.
Here we have the replay. Watch this. There's Ken Matthews around. He gets hooked up with the GIO car, and there was the Mobile Commodore up on the inside.
Pissed out the window.
Oh, Gibbsy was anything but impressed about
there's
that.
The tyre drama.
That started off the tyre drama, as Doug said, coming down beneath the GIO bridge. They've got it into the pits now. Should be able to bring you up to date. And Bob Forbes there. Mark Osler is down. I don't think that one was in the script, Mark.
No, certainly not. Could be running in 6th position in such a difficult race with a great effort by the GIO crew up till now. But there is, well, there's a lot of oil leaking out of the front of the car. There's obviously been a bit of damage to oil coolers at the front, where they're located at the front of the engine. They're changing tyres, they're throwing off the wets, they're putting on slicks, but quite severe damage to the front of the car. Apparently it tangled with a Sierra. I think I heard you guys mentioning that. Bob Forbes is a very upset man at the moment. He's looking pretty strong here. So a lot of work going on, but I can tell you there are gallons of oil tipping out of the front of this car.
Here comes the number 2 Winfield Nissan, Anders Olofsson of Sweden in the car.
And staying in the car.
Yeah, staying in the vehicle. So Anders has done a great job running support for the number 1 car today. And Dick Johnson coming into the pits now just ahead. He's going to change over to slicks as well.
And they're doing pads, I think, too.
Could be. Yeah. JB ready to step in. And JB is down there to cover JB's pit stop.
Yes, thanks very much, Mike. The brake pads were there just in case they were going to try and hold off to the next stop. It looks like they're going to be able to do that. And otherwise, it's just a straight driver change and tyre change onto the slicks, as was quite rightly pointed out. Topping up of the engine oil. They want to get this one out of the way quickly. The only gamble with, of course, leaving that brake change out is that if the brakes wear down a little hard, it can make the later change a little difficult. But I'm sure they've worked that out. And in 34 seconds, they're off and running with John Bowe in the
the car.
And while all that was going on, Johnny Brady, the number 2 Nissan has rejoined the race. Anders Olofsson still at the wheel, and as a result of that pit stop has overhauled the Shell Sierra, and they've swapped positions.
So 2 rejoins in second, 17 in third. Race leader is still the number 1 car. Peter Jackson Falcon V8. Been a very impressive debut here at Mount Panorama. Basically an untried car. And AJ, our former Formula 1 world champion, concentrating.
In 11th place.
Haven't had the opportunity with Racecam before to watch Alan Jones. Been sensational, of course, in the BMWs. Just like another day at the office.
It's a different look to Seaton, though. You've got to put the wide-angle lens on when you're trying to get pictures of Jonesy. He can't hear me, can he, Mike?
Oh, I just hate to think that he could.
He's a violent man.
Okay, number 1. The leading car coming in for its pit stop. The 2 car has been and gone. This should be a quickie.
Yes, in and out without surrendering the lead, I would imagine.
Freddie Gibson stands at the front of the car.
Mark Skaife staying in it by the looks of things.
And Mark Osler is there.
Mark Skaife indeed staying in the car. Just had a check of the brake pads. This thing is not using a lot of brake pads. Very impressive performance from the car. But the pits are so tight that we've actually got to move out of the way. They've gone backwards. Now they're going forwards. Very slick stop. They're actually back on the ground in just under 24 seconds. Remarkably quick stop from the Nissan team.
Split times on the Caltex scoreboard. Of course, Richards and Skaife continue to lead. 26 seconds the margin now over their teammates, Olofsson and Crompton in the second Winfield Nissan. And 37 seconds the margin over third place getters Car 17 Johnson. And about fourth place, Longhurst and Chicotto still the Benson and Hedges BMW, and rounding out the top 5 in car number 16, Alan Grice and Wyn Percy.
Wyn Percy comes on to Conrod Straight. And the sun is out, and that must feel good for a palm. What about it, Wyn?
Well, it looks pretty good at the moment. The weather's a lottery, obviously, but we seem to have got over the worst of it.
This is a very fast part of the racetrack through here, and the car looks beautifully settled today.
These brakes are just unreal. They're wonderful. That's our strong point, I think.
It must be a delight to have some fine weather. That was atrocious early in the day.
Don't ever let me hear Australians complain about Silverstone weather again. It's never that bad.
That was awful. How strong does this car feel, Wyn?
Very, very strong. Really, really pleased with it.
It sounds fabulous.
Just a little bit busy then, sorry. Yep, I think the fans are really loving it.
Yes, they certainly are. Wyn heads off Repco corner. Whew, straight over our camera. He's got the GTR hauling after him.
It's 1 lap down, actually, at this stage. Wyn Percy 1 lap down on Skaife and Richards.
It's a little camera hanging out on the back winglet of the Commodore. That's how close he goes to the wall.
What are those cameras worth, Mike?
It sure saves on the cameraman, though.
Yes.
But it is a great view. It's got plenty of muck over it today, but just watch this as they come down to Skyline. I think that's the Wayne Gardner car just up ahead.
Yeah.
Coming down to the dipper.
They're great pictures.
They certainly are. Close there, isn't it?
We were talking before about the problems experienced by the Jones-Seaton Falcon, and Alan Jones is now out of the car, I can tell you, and they're wheeling it away. Mark Osler is down there, I believe.
Certainly am, Doug. I've got Alan Jones with me now. Alan, very strong run from this brand new car. What eventually stopped it?
Oh, I think it was only a fuel pump going down Conrod. It just misfired when I changed up into a higher gear. So rather than risk another lap, I pulled in while I was close to the entrance, and they've checked it. And it looks like the fuel pump's going on the thing.
Yeah, the 15 car looks like Bradley Jones got caught up on top of the ripple strip, I think. And he's trying to ask them to give him a hand back, push him off the ripple strip. 15 was in 6th position.
He's hung up there, I think.
can't fire it, he's locked it, so... Marshals are trying to see what they can do to help. He's just poised over there. That's not the safest spot on the road. There's some torment going on now for Bradley Jones.
Wipe the sweat from his brow, shrug of the shoulders. There's just nothing he can do. Frustration.
Frustration, embarrassment, and just a bit of paranoia. That's not a great place to be stopped, Gary.
They can only deal with the guys who are on the spot there. And they might, yes, they're having some success now to try and get it off the ripple strip.
The gear stick was stuck, can you believe it? I've just had words through.
Look at this. He's going to have to get it all the way around and back in again. Let's have a look at the replay as they come through there. That's the Supra going through, and he gets it around sideways. He's got it all locked up. Tries to bring the tail around. That'll bring the front back over the ripple strip. That doesn't do much for the front air dam, and then he's got it wedged on top of the ripple strip. So that's what happened to young Bradley Jones. So Bradley comes in. Andy Raymond's there.
Yes, and down here at the Holden pit, obviously putting on the new front spoiler after that little incident. Bradley Jones looking quite comfortable, though, in the driver's seat. They're also putting on some new, fresh, slick tyres. The other car, the number 16 car, Win Percy, will also be coming in soon. Looks like they're having a little bit of problem here getting the front spoiler on. Bradley Jones sitting there as they wipe the front windscreen. Quite a lot of dirt, dust, and a little bit of mud still up there from when it was rainy a little time ago, but everything going fairly much to plan down here for the number 15 Holden.
Thanks, Andy. I tell you what, if looks could kill, poor old Brad Jones, he must feel awful at this stage. They were running there strongly. It only takes one little incident. The whole game plan is out. They've at least been able to get the spoiler on, but may have done...
And they're moving it back, further back down the pit road to clear the way for the 16 car to come in.
That's a terrible time for young Brad Jones.
It's obviously something that they can't fix in a minute and a half.
Yeah, he was in 6th position before this debacle, which is going to depress every member of the team, particularly that man. Look at the face.
Well, they're still taking quite a while down there, AJ.
Yes, they certainly are. The thing is, Brad Jones is sitting in the 15 car, absolutely disgusted, and to be honest, no one quite knows what has gone wrong with the car. All the panic down here in the Holden pits is the fact that the Win Percy number 16 car is coming in, and it looks like it'll be coming in within the next lap.
David Parsons, number 35, Peter Jackson Sierra. Just a lap or so back there, getting the car a little sideways. Let's have a look at that. Coming through Caltech's chase. A little sideways out on the grass. Spins back, but at least he's staying away from the sand trap, trying to bring the front of it around, drop it down again. No, he couldn't. It's still there. He's got to attack it from the other side now. Get it pointed in the right direction. Wayne Park and David Parsons.
Whoa.
And the whole idea is you just have to keep it going. Get out of there. You've got to back onto the racetrack. Hasn't done any harm. He's up there and percolating along nicely, heading up Mountain Straight. I'll need some panels on that for its next race meeting.
That car's just had a pit stop as well. And car 15 we saw going into the pits, Brad Jones, who had that problem originally with the spoiler and then got stuck in the pit lane. The problem with that car is the tail shaft, which they're having to replace, so a long pit stop in prospect for Brad Jones.
It's not meant to be our year. The car's jumping out of second gear, so I've been using third most places, and you know, we got pretty close behind Tony. I went back to second just by habit and jumped out about halfway around the corner. So you know, and it's just one of those things, I guess, a bit like the tail shaft. When that's what happens.
The 30th anniversary, great race, the Tooheys 1000 from Mount Panorama, and our chopper cam shows you on lap 102 out of 161, 59 remaining, that the entry of Cotter and Dillman, the BMW M3 sponsored by Impala Kitchens, has run its race. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the Impala.
And here's the man at the moment, Mark Skaife. Driving the wheels off the Nissan GTR today. The HRT Commodore sitting in behind him.
But a lap down.
I tell you, he is not sparing the rod, young Skaife.
No, he's having to earn his money today, isn't he?
Doing a good job on this. I guess the big question has been, what will Freddie Gibson's team do, given that the turbo era ends on the 31st of December of this year?
He's only got 2 ways to jump.
And I believe it will probably be in favour of the General. Great Nissan race cam. Give you an idea of Mark. We pan it around as he comes over the top of the mountain, heading down towards Skyline. Just ahead of him, I think, is the Larry Perkins V8 Commodore. And we take the floor cam version that shows you just looks very relaxing. As always, the trademark of a very professional and polished race car driver. It does make it look very, very easy.
Scheduled stop driver change in some respects, but the real reason is they've been having trouble with the alternator, and that is still giving them a bit of curry.